Hello everybody and welcome to the video. Today we are going to learn how to do a garden stake made out of copper, and it has a pretty bird on the top, as you can see. It is about 18 inches tall in total, with the bird being a few inches there. Here are some of the materials that you will need. To get started, obviously you need some wire. I'm using copper wire. You can use steel as well. It's a little harder to work with. Aluminum is a bit too soft. I prefer the copper. You will also need some pliers. Any pliers will do, really. Just something that's going to allow you to really grip the wire and make it move where you want it to move. You will need some scissors to cut the wire, or wire cutters, even better, and pen and paper to draw out what you want the bird to look like. I have also included in this video a stencil that you can use for this design, but feel free to make your own, especially if you're a better artist than I. This is about the best that I could do. So, also, I wanted to take this time to talk a bit more about the materials themselves. This is a beginner level video, so I will assume that you haven't done too much of this before. Copper wire, or this kind of wire, comes in different sizes. So this wire is considered round, soft, and the gauge is what gives you the size of it. So this is, if you can see here, 16 AWG, 16 gauge wire. That is actually a pretty thick wire to work with when you're wire weaving. There are thicker ones. Actually, it's opposite to what you think. So the lower numbers are the thicker wires and the higher numbers are the thinner wires. Often you will see for jewelry 18 gauge, 20 gauge, really fine wire being like a 22 or 24. So we can go more into that a little bit later. I use bare copper wire, so it's not coated in any way. You can though buy different wires, so such as this. This is a silver coated. I don't know if you can see the color there very well. I'll move it into the light, which I love. It's very pretty. The benefit of having a coated wire is that the color won't change if you put it outside. A lot of what I do is garden decorations, so I like to use some things that won't turn color. This will turn a brown sort of color if you leave it untreated, which I like as well, so I tend to leave it. Again, these are available from the hardware store, also any craft store. You can buy sets if you know that you're going to be doing more wire work. This is just a straight edge, as you can see. There are some that are rounded. There are some that have nylon tips. There are larger ones, smaller ones, really your preference. My personal opinion is to look for something around the house to use if it's, you know, your first time starting out, and then invest after that, kind of judging what you need by doing your first couple of projects. Scissors will cut this wire, so the 16 gauge wire, it will cut through. These are fairly sharp. Wire cutters are even better, and I'll show you a couple of different wire cutters later on. And then obviously your design that you'll need. Okay, so those are the basic materials to get you started. Some additional materials that will be helpful to you as we move along this project will be a drill. This is what I use, just a Black & Decker 12-volt electric drill. What this does is it allows us to straighten the wire, and as it twirls it around, it strengthens it as well. Totally up to you. There are different ways to straighten the wire. Other ways are, these are nylon tipped pliers, and what you can do with these, I'll show you as well, is you run it along the wire. It helps to straighten it, because as you can see, we want something that will go into the plant or into the ground and hold something up. So that is another way. A third option is to buy this little contraption, which really was a game changer for me. I bought it from Michael's. You can get it from different craft stores. And I will also show you how to use this. You wrap it around the wire and pull. Some other things you will need is a ruler, because we want to be able to measure, or a tape measure. You may want different wire cutters. These are from the hardware store, and just a straight cut, very strong. That will really cut thick wire. In your kit, if you buy a kit from the craft store, it may come with smaller wire cutters. This will also do the job. And if you want to add some detail to the bird, which is nice as well, you can buy thinner wire. I will show you at the very end how to use this wire. We might add a wing, we could add, just some feet or something like that. And then also I brought a few beads. So these are 5mm. These are moss agate, and they roll around a lot. And what I will do with those is I can add an eye, and I'll show you at the end how to use this to add some detail to your bird if you want it. Alrighty, here we go. So now we're going to cut the wire. That's our first step. And we're going to cut about 26 inches or 67 centimeters. So I'm unraveling the wire. Just 2 tips I wanted to tell you as we're doing this, because obviously cutting wire is pretty straightforward. 2 things. One is, as you're taking the wire out, it helps to just straighten it with your hands. That way it's just less straightening later on. And the other thing is, instead of like unraveling it like this, try and move this out. I know it's a simple thing, but it's these simple things that kind of help along the way. And so we're just straightening the wire as we go, but not totally necessary. The drill obviously will do it as well. So I'm just going to measure out 25 or 26 inches. And then I'm just going to cut it. So here we go. And then I will show you with my scissors, if I can find them, that the scissors will cut it as well. But also you can use your wire cutters. So either one will do the job. And that's it. That part's super easy. So our next step is to wrap the wire around something sturdy. I'm going to use this doorknob. I also have a pot rack or kitchen rack that I sometimes wrap it around. Something that's not going to move, obviously, when you attach the other end to the drill and start pulling. The other one has a whole bunch of books and stuff on it, so it doesn't fall. This hopefully won't pop the door open. It doesn't usually. This is take 3 of this part of the video though, because it got stuck in the drill and popped open. So I will show you that part in a bit more detail in a second. So this is fairly straightforward. You just take it, wrap it around, and just try and make it as sturdy as possible. I will use my hand for a little bit, and then the last little bit I do use the pliers to make sure, sorry, where are they? Pliers, to make sure that they're going around here. The wire's going around, I mean. There. I do wear glasses, so if it pops open, it typically won't hit me in the eye, which is also a good thing. So here we go. So now this end is going to go into the drill. This is what takes me a few tries every single time. I don't know why. So we're gonna pop it in here. Because the wire's kind of thin, it's hard to get it so it really stays. I am not a very handy person when it comes to tools, so I'm sure there's a better way. All right, let's try that. So now it's in. I'm gonna pull it back and I'm gonna start drilling. I hope you can see what's happening to the wire. And that's about all we need. So it's just to make it as straight as possible. And then I let it go through here. I try and hold on to the end because I have dropped it on the floor before, and then you kind of have to start over. So here you can unhook it from the door, or you can also cut it, whichever you prefer. I'm gonna unhook it because I might use some of the wire at the end. As you can see, it's quite a long piece of wire, so I might actually straighten that end piece so that we don't waste the wire. Alrighty, so that is straightening the wire. As you can see, it looks pretty good. And now we're gonna move over to actually forming the shape of the bird. All right, see you in a second back at the counter. So now, as you remember, we had this piece at the end. So I just wanted to show you this because sometimes on a project, things go awry. And a good way to straighten it is just to use your pliers. I'm using the nylon ones, but you can also use the just the straight ones that you have. Sorry, you probably can't see that anymore. And so I just want to try and straighten it as much as possible. And it's mainly because I don't want to waste the wire. I could cut it, I could, cut a longer piece and be done with it, but even though wire is not overly expensive, I still like to use as much as possible. So I'm just going to work it around as much as I can and try and get it as straight as I can. This part's going to go into the ground, so it's not too concerning that it's not as straight as the other pieces, but you want it to look nice too, right? So, okay, so that's that. That part's going to go into the ground. It's a garden stake. You need probably 3 or 4 inches to go in so that you hold the whole thing up in the wind. Now I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to start at the straight edge piece. It's really nice on your project when you're working around to straighten the wire first as much as possible. It just gives a better look more than anything. So I'm going to hold it this way, and I'm going to start at the bottom of the bird. I'm going to be using my hands, and I'm going to be using my pliers. I also, in case I need it, have some homemade Play-Doh, and I use that actually quite a bit. I use it to hold pieces down as I'm going around. So I'm going to try and do it without it, but if I need it, I will also show you how that works. All right, so I'm going to start at the bottom like this, and then I'm just going to hold it using my fingers and try and get the right angle. I'm just going to bend it the way I want. It won't be completely the way you want it the first time, or it may be. I have a bit of a bend that I don't like. I could actually straighten that and start again, but I'm going to keep going because I just want to keep going on the video. Use your fingers, press it down, and just really follow that bird around. When you have a sharp edge, a sharp turn, what you do is take your pliers like this, hold it, hold this with your hand, and just turn the wire in the direction that you want to go. So I'm going to try and make it go around again and hold it. And then I'm around here. So I'm going to turn again to start forming the beak. And then as I'm out in the beak, I go past the beak, turn it around again. There's another tip: clean up your workspace so you don't get caught on stuff. I'm giving you guys all good advice of what not to do. You can see why. Here goes everything. This is reality. And so then what you do is you turn it up around. For the corner pieces, you just kind of want to use your hands more than anything. Hold it, and then here I just sort of start to turn the whole wire to get sort of the head shape that I want, like that. And then again, this is why I use the Play-Doh, because you run out of hands pretty quickly. It's probably hard for you to see. It just looks like hands. Okay, so there you can see the bird is starting to take shape. Put him back here Don't worry too much about the bottom. We'll deal with that in a second when we start wrapping it around. And then down here, again, just use your hands to change the shape, or if you want, again, I'm gonna cover the bird so you can't really see, I'm sorry. And then, you know, when we get down to here, when you wanna make a sharp turn, go past where you wanna turn, hold the pliers down, twist in the direction that you want it to go, like that. And then I'm gonna have another one here. So I put this back on this corner. Try to make sure you can see it this time. And then I'm going to take this, go past where I want to go, and twist up. So now you can see I'm kind of forming the edge of the tail there. I have one more sharp corner here, so I take this right to the corner, and then I'm just going to move this down like this. And now I've got a shape of a bird, and all that's left to do now is attach him. So this part, what I do is I take this and I go under and over, so it's kind of wrapped around like this. I'll do that again. So I've got this piece where I started, this piece where I ended. I take this wire, I go under this wire, and then I go above the tail like this, really pushing it into that corner piece there. Now this is where, this takes a bit of practice. I highly recommend when you start wire weaving that you just take some wire, one piece of wire, and practice wrapping another piece of wire around it. It sounds so simple. It's just a matter of really trying to make the wire go where you want it to go and try and get used to that. So now I'm gonna hold this piece with my pliers and I'm gonna start wrapping it around. Because it's 16 gauge, it's a little harder to work with. I'm gonna move this piece next to this, and I'm just gonna keep going around until it's very firmly attached. And now I just have a little bit more to go. You can kind of pinch these to make them go where you want. Give yourself a bit more room there. And I have one more little piece to get up there. So I just keep working it, keep putting it together so it looks nice more than anything. When you get to the end, you're gonna have this piece that's kind of sticking up. So the best way for this, because I don't really have enough room to keep like pulling it and attaching it, is you put this around like this, you can kind of see, and then you just start turning. So you're working that end piece that's kind of sharp as close to the other wire as possible. And that way, you know, you run your fingers around it and it's not so sharp anymore. So you just keep doing that. And then what I like to do is just make sure the bird's kind of flat, and then move this piece over so that it's nice and straight. And there you have it, a little bird. I like to then just sort of maneuver some of these pieces to really get it the shape that I want. I wish I had a bit more of a head, so I can just do that with my fingers. And then if you make a mistake, again, use the pliers that you have to try and, you know, straighten something. You can really fix a lot if something goes wrong. What's harder to fix is if you kink the wire. So if you have something, I'll show you with another one, where you've really bent the wire but kinked it like this, it's not as easy to bend back into shape. There'll always be a bit of a, you know, kind of a bit of a bump. It's not impossible, but where you can, try not to kink it. Bending is okay, but kinking it is just a little harder to work out, but not impossible. So that's pretty close. So there you have it. There's the bird. Now, the end piece, I'm gonna straighten it probably at the end, but you need, again, about 3 to 4 inches to put into the soil or the pot, wherever it is. All right, so I'm gonna end that part there. And in the next part, I will show you how to add a little bit of detail if you want. So the bird is very cute as he is, and can be put into your garden or a plant. But if you want, you can also add some detail. And normally what I would do is I would use much thinner gauge wire, so such as 24. This is bare copper round. Again, you can use different wire, you can use coated wire, different colored wire, different gauge wire, up to you. The reason I use the 24 is it's much easier to manage, and I think it's kind of like a pretty detail, so it just makes it a little bit different than the thicker wire. I'm also going to use a moss agate bead, 5 millimeters. There's a small hole in it. The 16 gauge wire doesn't fit through a lot of different beads, so you just have to kind of watch that as well. All right, so to get started, I'm just going to use, I don't know how much, probably about 6 inches or so. And I'm just going to cut that like this. And I'm going to take that wire and I'm going to first add an eye. So I start at one end and then I just start wrapping it around. Wrapping wire can be a little frustrating at the beginning. Honestly, it's just practice. I shouldn't say that. It's two things. One is practice, and the other is making sure you have good wire. When I first started out, I hope you can see what I'm doing there. I'm just wrapping. So I'm just taking one end, holding the other, and just going around, trying not to overlap at the top. And I'm just gonna do 3 or 4 times. Sorry, going back to what I was saying, when I first started out, I used the wrong wire. I used like a stringing wire, and I was trying to weave with it. It was next to impossible. And honestly, I thought it was just me. I thought I can't do this, forget it, I'm not gonna try. But then I got the right wire later on. This is para wire, there's artistic wire, using Arcor, all sorts of really good brands, and it all of a sudden worked. So don't be frustrated, it could be the wire. Also, practice is important, so just keep at it, and honestly, you will totally be able to do it. So I've gone around a few times, I go down once, and then I cut it. It's a little hard to see, I hope. I'm gonna keep saying that. And then to put the sharp piece in as close as possible, I just grab it and kind of move it around, and that way it goes in. I still feel it a little bit sharp, so I'll try again over this way. Yeah, that's pretty good. So there's a piece. I'm going to just, because it's so thin, you can really start to move it around and shape it with your hand. It responds very well to the heat in your fingers. I'm going to first put my glasses on, and then I'm just going to put the bead on. Pretty simple, no tricks with that. And then I'm going to add the other piece, maybe around here. I don't want the eye to move around too much, so what I'm going to do, sorry about that, what I'm going to do is add a tiny little, I'm just going to wrap it around like once, maybe a little loop there, something like that, just so it stays in place. And then something like that, Picasso bird. And then I will wrap it around here. And again, I'm just gonna pick a place, hold it, and then you really want it as tight as possible. I think aesthetically, it's not nice to overlap, but you know what? If it works and it looks nice for you, go right ahead. There, and I wrap it down, and then I cut it. As close as possible. I move them close together, and then I grab it again because I want that sharp piece to go in, and I just twist, and that moves the sharp piece in. And there we have an eye, so something like that. And because I've added that little gap there, that little loop, it will stay in place. There. There, you can also do the same thing if you wanted to add a wing, let's say. Again, just take a piece of wire. You can straighten, because it's 24 gauge, totally easy to straighten with your hands. I've got too many tools going here, I just cut. And then if I wanted to add, I could do like, you know, maybe starting here, and just leave a piece, in, I'm holding it, and then I just start to wrap around like this, and then just keep going around. So I'm gonna wrap it a couple times, turn it upside down, maybe you can see better that way. And just over, just using my hands, I don't always need the pliers. Again, there go the beads. And then I want to make this a nicer little shape. So using your hands, wrap it around kind of where you want it to be. Something like that maybe. I know you probably can't see, it's all sideways. Something like that. And then again, hold it. And I'm just gonna go around like this. I really find going slow helps. I'm trying to move a little quickly because I'm sure you're getting really bored by now. But honestly, going slow totally helps. And then you cut these pieces, turn them around, cut and cut. And same thing, it's very repetitive, but you're gonna just try and get that in there like that. Also, if you don't get it as tight as you want it, and let's say this was sliding up and down, you can also use glue. And I've done that before, and I just put glue, like, you know, just a clear glue here and here, and it will hold those knots in place, those weaves for you. And there you go. There's your little bird. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of this video. I really hope that everything works out for you. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me. I'll leave it at the end of the video. It's also on the Etsy site if that's where you got the video. I'm going to include 2 things for you extra. The printout of the bird in case you want to just trace mine and you don't want to draw your own. Feel free to use it, I really don't mind. And the other thing I will include is a small, shorter video on tips, tricks, and fix, because lots of things can go wrong, and that is no problem. That is just part of it, and things are usually very fixable. So I'll give you some ideas on how to do that. Thank you very much, and good luck, and have fun, and I wish you all the best. Bye for now.